do something that makes you a little uncomfortable, whatever that may be. It doesn't have to be some big across the country trail, but maybe there's some other thing you're wanting to tackle, getting into the gym, getting sober, any number of things that you're maybe hesitant to do, but they're within the realm of possibility. It's just a matter of showing up and doing it. I would just say, get out of your comfort zone. Just take that step to do it. Reach out to somebody who's done it before you. Reach out for help, but just take the next step and just do what you know you need to do.
Stories are powerful.
Welcome to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast, brought to you by The Phoenix. This is a space where people impacted by substance use can come to share their story of strength and resilience, get open and honest, and inspire hope and build community through shared experience.
We'll be talking to people in our community on their own recovery journey and shine a light on the topic of recovery in all its forms. Maybe you'll hear some of your story in theirs.
Let's show the world that together we rise, recover, and live.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. We are your hosts, Bryce III, he, him pronouns, and Liz McKean's like, no, Liz is not here today. She is a little under the weather. So it is just me heading up this episode, and we'll get straight to our guest, which if some of you have been listening for a while, this guest should be a familiar guest. This is Stewart Powell. Last time we had him on the show, what was the name of the trail? The Appalachian Trail?
Pacific Crest Trail.
Pacific Crest Trail. So last time we had Stewart on the show, he was just about to embark on heading out on the Pacific Crest Trail. And now he's back. He's done it. He's had this experience, and we want to have him back on the show. So Stewart, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I survived the trail and feeling great today. It's around the holidays as we're recording here, and I'm well fed and enjoying some time with family and catching up with them now that I'm back from the journey.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. We're just getting back from Thanksgiving this past weekend, and even when I talk to you, so there's a question that I asked when we try to get the audio right, which is like, what did you have for breakfast? What are you going to have for dinner? Just to get the guests talking. And when I asked you, Stuart, I asked you, what are you having for dinner? And you detailed this pizza with all meat. And you're talking about being fed well. What was it like out there on the trail, like having to ration food? Like, what type of food were you eating?
Bryce, there was a lot of ramen noodles going on. So it was trying to find the right mix of food that it's light as possible and as calorie dense as possible. So that involved a lot of ramen noodles, a lot of oatmeal, a lot of peanut butter, a lot of energy bars. I ate a lot of the same thing. And I didn't, to save weight, I didn't take a camp stove with me. So I just ate everything cold. So the oatmeal was cold in the mornings and the coffee was cold in the mornings. We did have some opportunities when we came across a resupply town to really stock up on food, which was really nice. But out there on the trail, it was pretty basic. And I don't have any desire to have any more oatmeal or ramen noodles or power bars for quite some time.
For a very long time.
getting stocked up on all that good food that I really love. However, my body still thinks I'm getting ready to walk 30 miles each day, so it keeps telling me I need to eat as many calories as I was out there. I got to be careful with that, or there's going to be a whole lot more of me in a couple of months. So. Trying to moderate the appetite and the intake now that I'm back in the real world.
Yeah, no, human biology is so interesting. We're an adaptable species. Like, that's how we've gotten this far, right? So the fact that your body can adapt to a certain way of living for so long, and then now you have to retrain it to live the way that it lives now.
I got to retrain it to eat a lot less ice cream than I was on the trail. That was my go-to treat and my go-to fuel. A good way to get tons of calories in, and I still love that ice cream. So I got to be careful. Maybe cut it down to once a week.
Ice cream is calling your name. So there are some people who didn't hear the first episode. There's some people who heard the first episode and maybe forgot what the Pacific Crest Trail is. So just take us back to, like, what is the trail and what were your motivations behind doing this?
Yeah, so the Pacific Crest Trail is a 2,650-mile trail that goes from the Canadian border goes through the states of Washington, Oregon, and California, goes through those entire states, following the mountain ranges down, and it ends down at the Mexican border. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, not far from this trail, and I had hiked parts of it. And in the back of my mind, it was always kind of a bucket list item that I wanted to do. But in my active addiction, it was never a realistic possibility for me to do that. So we can go a little bit more into, into my story, but ultimately I wanted to do something to celebrate recovery, specifically celebrate a year of sobriety. I started the trail a few months after I got to my year mark. I just wanted to do something big, something that was a kind of a demarcation line between the old way of living and the new way of living. And the Pacific Crest Trail really fit the bill. I decided I wanted to do that. And so that was kind of the genesis of why I decided to do the trail and a little bit about the trail.
Yeah. Yeah. So 2,600 miles. That's
And 50.
2,650.
But who's counting? But who's counting? Yeah.
To the T. Like that's,
Yeah.
somebody who I've been getting into like running a little bit recently, and, really for meditation's sake. And then I'll get home and then I'll look at my counter and then I see, okay, I did 2.5, I did 3. Like that's 2,000 miles. And so I know a lot went into planning that. Like, can you remind me how much prep went into that to prepare you to go out on the trail?
Yeah. So, logistical preparations, I got geared up with some really ultralight backpacking gear, and I walked around a lot to get ready for it. So that was basically the preparation, kind of dialing in my decisions on, what I was going to eat, where the resupply locations were going to be. So kind of had that mapped out, and it was a big logistical undertaking. It was 4.5 months. It took 4.5 months total, and you're out there on the trail the entire time you're backpacking. So you've got everything. You've got all your belongings with you. You've got all your food with you, and water with you in between refill lakes and rivers and creeks and all that kind of stuff. So logistically, it was really nice because as we came across crossroads, when we'd come to crossroads with nearby towns, we would either hitchhike or walk into town so that we could get a little bit of civilization. We could stock up our food. We could get a good night's rest. Every now and then we'd take a rest day in a town as we went along. So we weren't totally off the grid the whole time, but a good portion of the time we were. We'd go between 3 and 6 days out there on the trail in between resupplies, put on about 25 to 30 miles on a normal hiking day, sometimes up to 35 miles. And it was quite the adventure. It was quite the challenge.
When you say we, was it you? So I've heard word of mouth too from different people that they met you on the trail. But was it anybody in particular that stayed with you throughout the whole journey?
Yeah, no, I started on my own. I started up at the Canadian border going solo. I didn't plan this trip out with anyone, but I made it from about the Canadian border down to about central Oregon, and met somebody along the trail that he and I were kind of on similar paces. So as the days went by, we'd end up camping at the same spot, or we'd see each other along the trail. And it's not uncommon for people to kind of pair up or get into groups, get into what they call trail families or tramilies, and kind of hike sections or hike the whole thing together. So me and my now buddy Zach, we started hiking together in Central Oregon. And then we had a third join us, Kelsey. She joined us around Yosemite National Park in Central California. And then Hannah joined us down in Southern California around Tehachapi. And so the four of us ended up sticking together for the remainder of the trail. And that was really neat. I had a good mix of kind of time solo hiking, but as well time with other people, getting to know my tramily and others along the way. So it was a really good mix of solo time and also time with others.
I love that, the tramily.
The tramily, yeah.
I'm drawing a lot of parallels here, Stewart. The embarking on a journey for because I know that I need to do it, because I'm called to do it. The finding my community upon that journey, but I wouldn't have found them had I not taken the first step and got out there. You know, the community and the connection that comes with that community that enhances my experience in ways that I could have never predicted. This sounds like recovery to me.
Yeah, very much. And the community was a huge part of it. So, rewinding the tape a little bit before I got sober, community is something that I didn't have at all. I was really, really isolated in my addiction because I used alcohol to solve all of my problems. I didn't need other people. In fact, I never needed to address a problem in my life because I had this quick fix in alcohol, which I originally discovered in high school and then proceeded to basically my whole adult life turn to alcohol to solve my problems. And I had all kinds of problems internally, insecurity, loneliness, low self-esteem, all of these kind of things. Alcohol was always my go-to. And I didn't want to let this thing go. And so I kept this to myself. I kept my addiction to myself so that I would never be at risk of needing to let it go. And part of that involved just really withdrawing from people. Even when I was around people, they had no idea the extent that I was drinking. Most of my drinking I did alone. And it got to the point where just a little over a year and a half ago, I did not want to go on any further living that way. And I was thinking that, my only way out was to end it. I was considering and planning to take my own life. And it really got to a desperate situation to where something had to give. I either needed to follow through with that or I needed to reach out for help. And so I reached out, got myself checked into a rehab where I spent some time, realized that this wasn't going to be a quick fix. So I continued treatment in an outpatient program, a sober living program down in San Diego area. So that was where my connection to San Diego is. And that's also where I started to really get involved with the Phoenix. And that comes back to this community thing. I went from being completely isolated to showing up for my first Phoenix event, and it just clicked. And I knew I had found my community. I knew I had found my people. So the Phoenix was a really important part of my recovery. And when I decided that I was going to do this trail, do the Pacific Crest Trail, it was originally just going to be something I wanted to do, something as a bucket list item. And I decided, wow, this could be a great way to raise awareness of the Phoenix and to do a fundraiser for the Phoenix. And so I decided to do that. And that really became the priority along the trail, was to raise awareness of substance use disorder, raise awareness of the Phoenix, do this fundraiser. And I really, even though I was out there in the middle of nowhere, my Phoenix community, my Phoenix family was really on my mind throughout that whole journey. And I wouldn't shut up about it on the trail. It was kind of, I'd always make sure to talk to people about it. I'd let them know why I was on the trail, post a lot of things on social media, keeping people updated where I was, and giving a shout out to the Phoenix. And anyway, but again, that just all goes back to, I found my people, I found my community, and community is something that I was, that was completely, I completely had a deficit in that department. And so I found that in recovery.
Yeah, it's so interesting how we come from being reclusive and not having community to being the catalyst for people to find community. Like, there's been a couple of people that have reached out to me that said that they heard about the Phoenix through you, or
Good.
they saw what Stewart was doing, and they wanted to know more about the Phoenix. And it's like, oh, this thing has a ripple effect that we could never predict. And it took for you to have the experience of those lows to find the ability to show up for yourself in such a way that is able to show up for other people. And it just goes to show, like, how each and every one of us, how important it is, how important we are to the community at large.
Yeah, and that, Bryce, that makes me so happy to hear. I haven't been contacted by anybody directly saying, "Hey, I'd never heard of the Phoenix, and now I have by following your journey." But that means everything to me, because that was my goal, was to kind of get the word out there, because it has been huge for me to stay connected, specifically with the Phoenix, because in addition to community, I had really given up all of the things that I used to love to do, like backpacking and hiking and
Mm.
staying active. So I also wasn't active. All I was doing was drinking. And through the Phoenix, I found ways to get active with other people. I found a community of people that I could stay connected with, specifically a community of people with the same goals, people who were on this same journey of overcoming addiction, and also the opportunity to serve. For instance, with the Phoenix as a volunteer, but just in general, so important for me to be of service and to get outside of myself. And so all three of those things, staying active, building community, and being of service, is all available to me with the Phoenix. I feel like I'm giving you, Bryce, a Phoenix commercial
Yes,
here. You already know about the Phoenix, but if you could, I mean, you probably do understand, but how passionate I am about it and how huge it was for me. And when I first found out that this was actually a thing,
yeah,
and I showed up for that first event, I was like, oh, okay. This is what it's about. It's not about this pickleball event that I just showed up to. It's about these people. It's about
the
connecting,
community.
and it's about giving back. And that's
Yeah.
it. And so I'm happy to hear others found out about it.
Those who listen to the show, like, y'all know how much effort I put into making sure that this show does not sound like a commercial, but it becomes so
I just blew that
hard
out of the water.
because it's such an organic community, and it is free resources, and you just see the continuous improving of the quality of lives of people over and over and over again. It's like, how could you not want to scream from the rooftop, like, how this thing has impacted us? And when it comes to impacting us, so there's the overall notion of community and how I can contribute to community and how I can take my interests, my passions, what I'm excited about, and give that to the community at large. And then there's how that community feeds into me and then my relationship with myself, because as we all know, recovery is a continuous conversation with ourselves as we continue to grow and evolve. And so I'd imagine doing something like the Pacific Crest Trail gave you a little bit of stuff to talk about with yourself. So how did that deepen your relationship with you? What was that experience like? Like, was it spiritual? Was it like, what was it like?
Yeah, I did have a lot of time to think, contemplate. And at first I was a little nervous about all of that alone time, because for me in the past, being alone with my own thoughts and being up in my head, that could be, that can be kind of a dangerous place to be sometimes with my old ways of thinking and my old patterns. But I really didn't struggle with that. It was really an experience, even when I was out there solo, to really be in the moment. It was pretty spectacular the whole way through. I mean, it was beautiful. It was challenging. It was all the things that I hoped it would be. And I spent a lot of time experiencing awe out there. And I think for me, another word for awe is just gratitude. Felt gratitude to be out there. And I felt small every day, small or humble, because literally the landscapes that I was in was huge. The night sky, the weather,
Wow.
the wildlife, all of these things just put things in perspective. Like, wow, my supposed problems that I have are not the biggest thing that's going on right now. So I spent a lot of time really being in the moment. And instead of dwelling on the past, I spent time in the moment, and then I spent time kind of productively thinking about the future and the opportunities that are ahead of me. And so the time that I did spend in my head, I think, was really productive. As I was getting near the end of the trail, people were asking me about what epiphanies did you have? And we kind of joked as we were finishing up the trail, this group of 4 of us, and people were starting to ask us about epiphanies. I was walking with the group one time. I said, okay, everybody, it's time to start making up our epiphanies here, because everybody's going to be asking what life-changing insights did you have, and all this kind of stuff. And we joked about that because a lot of the time is spent just trying to put one foot in front of the other, or just thinking about, oh man, am I going to get, how am I going to get through this day, or it's hot, or it's cold, but upon further reflection, I really realized that I did have some important epiphanies out there, and it wasn't the logistical things that I was hoping it would be. Like, what am I going to be when I grow up? Am I going to go back to my previous career or find something else? Who am I going to marry? How many kids am I going to have, or anything? What's my spirituality? What's the mysteries of life? All that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't have any of those epiphanies, but because I spent so much time in gratitude and feeling small, I realized that whatever those things are that I decide to do in life, if I can stay connected with my community and build new community and try to be of service to others and think a little bit less about myself, all of those other things, I hope, are going to take care of themselves. So that's really what I came away from this with.
Yeah, I think perspective is just a beautiful thing to have, and if this experience was the catalyst for that perspective, then, now like you have a new container of which to view life. And, a lot of times we want those big, mind-blowing epiphanies. We want the black and white. We want the instantaneous. And I think, like, for me, that was a big reason why I used things outside of me, because I wanted things to settle in and give me the direction and let me know the answer immediately. And I think one of the things that in recovery has been, there's been continuity in the meditation of, is like allowance. Like allowance of not having the answer, or maybe it not being as clear, or maybe there's just a notion right now, or maybe there's just a shift in perspective. And maybe I might miss that shift in perspective if I don't take the opportunity to sit still a little bit and become present in a moment. And like I could imagine like going into something like that, because even I'm thinking, like, I'm just imagining it. I'm like, oh, after 2,600 miles
And 50.
and 50 and a couple quarters, like, wouldn't things just start to look the same over and over again? Like, wouldn't I start to get like tired of seeing it? Wouldn't this become the new norm, and like it not be as magical anymore? And I mean, I would never know unless I had that experience. But from what you're sharing, it was never that, huh?
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, it's really beautiful. Landscapes are really beautiful. Like I said before, sunrises, sunsets, all that kind of stuff. But even given that, there was some parts that were kind of a drudge. You had to trudge through it. Just walking. You're walking through the forest all day. You haven't had a real great view all day. Maybe you're struggling. Maybe the weather's bad. Those kind of things. That was definitely part of it too. And with those times where it wasn't fantastic, I could just sit with it and be okay with it and stay in the moment and try not to think about this is miserable, or this is really cold, or this is really hot, I'm really thirsty, and the next water's not for 15 miles. But I could just sit with it and be okay with it. And the landscape was only half of the experience. A huge part of it was the people that I connected with, the people along the way, the people that helped out specifically during those parts that were the most difficult. For instance, the desert section, the Southern California section, basically the last 400 or 500 miles. There was a lot of times where water wasn't readily available. People would come out and they would place water caches. They'd place gallons and gallons of water for us hikers to come across and use. Otherwise, the trip really isn't doable. And those people that help along the way are called trail angels. And the things that they do for us are called trail magic. So the whole way down at different points, we would experience that trail magic. People that just wanted to come out, those trail angels who wanted to come out and help. And it was one time we came across a guy in the middle of nowhere in central Oregon that was making pancakes in the middle of nowhere for everybody. He had all these camp chairs set up. He had his trailer, he had his griddle, and he had a sign on the on the tree that said trail magic this way, and we come across this randomly, go over there, and he just stuffs us with pancakes. That happened time and time again. People giving us rides, people giving us places to stay, people helping us out along the way. And that was really special too. So it was the adventure of it, it was the challenge of it, but it was also the connection, the community that was built along the way that was really, really special.
Man, so I don't know if it's because I'm a sucker for parables. I love those books like The Alchemist or The Sacred Journey of the Peaceful Warrior that like are a story, but it have these little nuggets like packed inside of it. And I'm just hearing you detail your experience, and I'm hearing my experience. Showing up and having faith, putting one foot in front of the other, and I'm supported along the way by people and places and things that I could never have imagined would be there to support me in ways that I could never have imagined being supported. But I took the first step, and then when it's not so exciting, just one foot in front of the other, and having an innate belief in people to show up, an innate belief in myself to show up. That sounds like a magical adventure. It sounds like a magical adventure.
It was.
So what would you tell yourself before you started, now that you finished? What things didn't you consider, or would you have done different?
No, I wouldn't have told myself anything. I would have just let myself go out blind, kind of like I did. I didn't realize how challenging it was going to be. I may have shied away from it if I realized how challenging it would be. So I would have kept my mouth shut and just done it exactly how I did and learned along the way. I came out of the gates hot on this hike. I was so excited about it. When I got up there at the Canadian border heading down, there's just these massive, beautiful mountains and landscape. And I was just coming out of the gate hot, going way too fast. And after a couple of days, my knee, I had a knee that was just killing me. And I really thought that, oh man, I screwed up this whole journey by getting way too excited at first. But, I slowed my roll down. I got some new shoes. I addressed that as it came up. So I just learned those different lessons along the way. Pace yourself. Don't try to take on too much. Again, these parallels between recovery and this experience. Reach out for help. Reach out for help if you need it. Make sure to connect with people along the way. But I wouldn't have changed it. The setbacks, the learning opportunities were just really, really great. I wouldn't have changed a thing.
Yeah. And so one last question. You said when you set out to almost have that line of demarcation where it's like, okay, this was that, and now this is to mark this new life. And we all know that we've had the experience of like planning and having intention and then having the actual experience. And so with that being your plan, put that up side by side with your actual experience. Like, do you feel that that's the case? Do you feel like you're brand new today? Like there's that strong line of demarcation, or like, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I came through this experience with more resilience than I had going into it. I came out of this experience with more grit than I had before. Like I said before, it really drove home the idea that I need to stay active, stay connected, be of service, think less of myself. It really drove those ideas home. But I think I came out of it the same old Stewart, same guy, just with a little bit more experience under my belt. So glad that I did it. A real sense of accomplishment and real sense of gratitude and humility. And I don't need to, it's a different world out there. I mean, it's, talk about a grand experience. This is not like an everyday, this is not the kind of a thing you can experience every day. So I want to make sure that I realize the blessings that I do have every day, so that I can each day feel that sense of gratitude, that sense of awe and gratitude that I had, and also that sense of humility that I experienced out there. And I think that's going to come from just each day taking time to recognize how grateful I am, how lucky I am, how lucky I am to be sober, how lucky I am to have the support system that I have. I need to make sure I keep talking about service. Service isn't my default. I wake up every day thinking about me. First 100 thoughts of the day are about me. Second 100 of the thoughts of the day are about what others can do for me. It's way down the line of thoughts that I start thinking about others. So if I can consciously move thoughts of others a little, sooner in the day, I'm going to be better off. So I just want to take those lessons learned out there on the trail and apply that to my everyday, normal, little less exciting life now that I'm back into the real world.
And enjoy all of the all meat pizzas that you possibly can.
Ooh, meat pizzas, ice cream, but not too much ice cream. Oof.
Not back to back, please.
Oof. See what I can do.
All right, there's somebody listening to this episode and they're like, yo, I want to do something big too. Like I want to step out. I want to challenge myself. I want to find something that helps me to unfold in a way that only this thing can. But they don't know how to get started and they might not even know who to talk to about it. What do you tell that person?
Yeah, I would just tell them to do something that makes you a little uncomfortable, whatever that may be. It doesn't have to be some big across the country trail, but maybe there's some other thing you're wanting to tackle, getting into the gym, getting sober, just any number of things that you're maybe hesitant to do, but they're within the realm of possibility. It's just a matter of showing up and doing it. I would just say, get out of your comfort zone. Just take that step to do it. Reach out to somebody who's done it before you. Reach out for help, but just take the next step and just do what you know you need to do.
Yeah, man. Wise words. Y'all heard it here. Stewart, thank you for coming back on the show and detailing your experience. I think this is one hell of a loop close, having talked to you before the trail and then after the trail. We'll have to have you on again after I climb Mount Everest because that's on my bucket list. And so
yeah.
I'm playing. Don't nobody hold me to that because I don't plan on climbing crap.
I'm going to hold you to that. So
I'll climb the bunny hill at a ski resort as long as I get to eat pizza and ice cream. That's all I'm saying.
Well, if you ever find yourself out here on the West Coast, or I find myself there in the Midwest, we'll have to get together for a hike.
Most definitely.
Kind of show you the ropes, show you all the different things all the different ways you can eat ramen, and how to take care of blisters and all that good stuff.
Yeah. No, I look forward to the day. It will come. So thanks, Stewart, for coming.
Thanks, Bryce.
We'll catch you all next time on another episode of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast.
So now you're excited. Bryce, Liz, how do I get involved with the Phoenix? Well, my friend, it is super simple. We actually have an app. Head over to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or look in the show notes of this podcast, wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast, and go download the Phoenix app.
The Phoenix app makes it so easy to find classes that are near you or to access our virtual class schedule where you can hop on from the comfort of your home. You can also join our groups and have a conversation with someone from the Phoenix community from anywhere in the world. Please make sure that you join the podcast group where you can connect with Bryce and I and other listeners. Everything that you need is in the show notes. You can also head to our website at www.thephoenix.org. And maybe while you're there, you click the volunteer tab and get even more involved.